Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Real podcast. We're so excited that you're with us. Each and every week, we're going to open up God's Word. We're going to have some discussion around what it means to live an intentional life. So let's listen in as we try to get real together.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Get Real podcast. My name is Brandon Ginden. I am the senior pastor at Real Life Ministries, Texas. And you are with us on the Get Real podcast. And I am here today with my good friend, one of the elders in our church, Bear Erickson. Bear, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. Brandon, thanks for asking me today.
I'm glad you're here. And so we are missing my infamous and famous partner, Lori Arnold. She's out. But we are continuing in this series on walking out our faith in the workplace. And we started this on our previous episode. So if you missed that, the intro would encourage you to go back and to watch that. And we're going to continue to build on that. And I'm going to be asking Bear about what it looks like for him in walking out his faith in his place of work. But I also want to encourage everybody that if this podcast has been a blessing to you, encouraged you, helped you in your walk with the Lord, that you would share it with your friends and family, and that you continue to help us, help this podcast grow and minister to people and your friends. And so those of you that have, thank you for doing that. And so, Bear, let's jump into this. And so a question I want to kick it over to you is, I know you are very passionate about sharing the gospel with people, reaching the lost for Christ. And you've always been a big encouragement to me about that, and us talking even about it on Sunday mornings after sermons and all of that. And so in your world, maybe kind of share with our viewers and listeners what you do in your day-to-day work, and then we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Well, about 7 years ago, I was between jobs, had a couple friends come and say, we would like to go into business with you, and we need an idea of what we're going to do.
Okay.
And we fell on the idea of we're going to open up an RV park.
Okay.
Where people can come and, we make money from having them use our facility there.
Right.
Part of what we talked about was the reason that we wanted to do that was we'd have people coming from literally all over the country, all walks of life.
Okay.
And it's an opportunity to minister to people.
Sure.
Sometimes in good times, they're here to see their grandkid, who's brand new, or in bad times, they're going through divorce or something else. And it was an opportunity for us to have time into the lives of the people that are there.
Okay.
So right now, I counted up this morning while I was getting ready to come over here. I think I have 123 bodies staying out at our RV park. So it's kind of like being the mayor of a really little town,
Yeah.
But every one of them, I try as they come to get to know them and know what their story is, because everybody's got a story. And take interest in their story. And then as we get to know them, share part of my story with them too, and be there for them to try and share Christ with them. And so that's what we have done. And if I go on a quick story with that, I have a guy that's been there for about 6 months, been living there. And last week he told me, or 2 weeks ago, he told me, I'm going back to California because my dad is ill.
Okay.
And so he took off and went, flew out to California, came back this beginning of this week, and he walked into my office and he said, listen, I'm going to have to be leaving because my dad is sicker than I thought. But I just want you to know that in my time here, I've enjoyed the place where we've stayed. But more important than that is when we see each other, you always ask me how I'm doing. You really care. And I've gotten to pray with you a couple times. And he said that means a lot, because in my life, there really haven't been people that have ever done that.
Wow. Wow. So to think about that at an RV park, I mean, that's not the normal probably thing at most RV parks is that people get prayed for and all of that. You said something right at the beginning about kind of the philosophy behind what you guys were doing, and that was building relationship with the people that are there.
Yes.
And so maybe talk about that a little bit, about what your focus on that of building relationship with them then how that's opened the doors. So maybe talk a little bit about what that's looked like.
Right. Well, I always say, everybody has a story, and people that are coming usually want to share their story because it's either good or bad.
Okay,
There's not a whole lot of in between kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the good ones, it's great to get to celebrate with people. I have a guy coming in Monday. This will be his third winter that he's going to spend with us.
Okay.
He lives in Minnesota.
Okay.
And he comes because his grandkids live here.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he's getting out of the snow and he's going to be here with the grandkids and stuff. So getting to talk to him just about, so you went to a ball game with your grandkids the other night. How did that go, Mark? What's going on with you? And after he was here the first time, I found out that shortly before he moved into our park, his wife had passed away. He's an older gentleman.
Yeah.
Even older than me. So, so just to talk through that with him, what's that been like? What's the adjustment been like?
Yeah.
And just be there for people. And there's an old saying that says, and it's kind of corny, but it's, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I strive to do with everybody there.
Mm.
And some are easier than others, you know.
Yeah.
But try and find out where people are.
Sure. Sure.
The Great Commission is, as you go, share the gospel.
Right.
And it's not just as you go, but find out where people are too,
Right.
I
Right.
think.
Yep.
And in those good times and bad times, that's when the gospel comes to the front.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
say, isn't God good? Or,
Right.
I can't help you, but I know a guy.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Sure. There's a couple principles that Lori talks about this quite a bit, and I'm going to bring up two different pieces because you're hitting all around it. One is the principle of kind of keeping your eyes up and looking to see. We talk about that principle in Script. Jesus says, "Look to see where the Father is working."
Yeah.
And so I really hear that in what you're saying. That is being a principle
Right.
that you carry into the workplaces. What's God doing here? What's he bringing? So you get to know those stories. So maybe talk a little bit about that issue of, why is that important to you to kind of keep your eyes up
Right.
and look to see where God is working? So maybe talk on that. And then the second one that I heard you say is, and I know this because you and I've talked about this, is you have to be willing to be interruptible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, in the intentional book, I wrote about that. But when we look in the life of Christ, I mean, my goodness, he can't hardly turn around a street, corner of a street without being interrupted.
Right.
And I know in your job that happens all day long. So let's talk about that issue first, about kind of keeping our eyes up, see where God is working, why that's been a principle. And then we'll get into the second part of being willing to be interruptible.
Right.
So maybe speak to that first one.
Yeah. When you started down that road, I thought about something. I have 4 kids, as you know, and I have a son and 3 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a special spot for young ladies that come, and I mean, creepy in a way, but I look out for them. I want them to be safe. I want them to feel protected. I want them to know that if there's ever any issue at all, come to me right away so we can help.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And in that, I've gotten to know some of these gals that have lived there for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, with about 3 or 4 of them, we get down to the same thing. I see them hooking up with a guy, dating a guy, right? And as an older guy with 3 daughters myself, the age of a lot of these girls, and with white hair, and everybody also knows my wife, so that out there too, to look them in the eye and say, listen, I just want you to know, as a father of 3 daughters, that guy is not what you should be looking for.
Okay. And
I know that because the guy that you should be looking for should have 8 letters and no numbers. And they say, what? BIBLE and JOB are the 8 letters they need to have. If they don't got a Bible and a job first, that's a really bad sign. And if they get mail and it's got their prison number behind it, you really don't want that.
Okay.
And I've said that, and it's kind of corny, and I've said that to a number of gals, 3 of which have come up to me later and said, I wish I would have listened to you about the 8 letters and the no numbers thing.
Sure.
And so having your eyes up and looking and seeing where people are.
But I want to interrupt you because this is really important. But you had built relationship with them.
Yes. Yeah.
And trust before even being able to see that, because
You can't just say that cold.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's
Right.
important. You had built a relationship with them,
Right.
to where they looked and you could speak into that and say
Right.
those things, and then they could come back to you and go, boy, you were right.
Yeah.
So that part's, I don't want to, I interrupted you, but that's an important piece to not just assume that relationship.
Yeah. I don't think, I have never seen great success from the street corner evangelist with the three colored wig on screaming Bible verses at people.
Right.
Now, maybe there is. But I think much easier is when you have relationship with someone, you've built friendship, then you can go in and you can speak into their lives.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
good.
you can share, not to correct them, not to beat them up, but say, I have something that is so precious that I want to share it with you.
Yeah.
People talk all the time. There's a brand new restaurant in town. It's good. You should go there. We say that to people, but why don't we say, there's a Savior out there. He's good.
Yeah.
You should try this.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Because what's more important? But you do have to have the relationship first. You have to, and I'll be honest with you, Brandon, I think you and I have talked about this too. We're both introverts,
Yeah.
We're not just out there, Lori's probably different. We're missing the extrovert this morning with that. But relationship is something that is work.
Yes.
You have to look and see, and then go to where they are and build that relationship from there. And then you have the right to speak into their lives.
Yeah. That's so good. So yes, and that's critical. Look and see. You're looking around, you're seeing God at work or in these opportunities to speak in. Now, when we flip that and go, there's a lot of different things that you got to do. So you use it from kind of a mayor of a little town. There's a lot of different things. So you're doing a lot of different stuff in the office, I'm sure, and there's problems here and there.
Yep.
And so talk a little bit about that, a willingness to be interruptible when people come to you and go, hey, here's the problem, or sharing their story, or coming, hey, my parent just died, or my sibling died, or what, they're sharing their life with you.
Right.
And so you're in the middle of doing something. They come through the office door or whatever that looks like in your world and interrupt you. Talk a little bit about that.
It's interesting because my days are either they're feast or famine, and at any given point in the day, as far as contact with people, I'll have 2 hours where I don't see anybody, and that's good for, doing paperwork and sending out, billing notices and things like that. And then I'll have a straight string of 4, 5, 6, 7 people come through, just one right after another. One of the things that happens is we have one mailbox. So every day I pick up a pile of mail and I set it out on a big counter in my office, and I text people and say, you have mail. So then they have to come and pick up their mail from the office, and I get to make contact with them. I get to talk to them.
That's pretty clever.
And some people, they just come and they get it. And then other people, we have conversation. Sometimes flippant conversation, sometimes deep conversation. But it's very rare, and it's kind of funny. The one person that I don't let interrupt the people I don't let interrupt my office stuff as easily is my family. Now, I love them to death. They're first and foremost, but they also know that if they call me and I say, I'll call you right back, that means there's somebody here that I'm
sure
busy with, and they're great, no problem, or don't bother, it wasn't important kind of thing. But it is very important to not have all the things that I need to do, want to do, feel like I have to do, be the priority. It's the people that are the priority.
Sure.
And it has to be that way.
Sure.
In order to be able to have impact into their lives.
Sure. That's really good. So what I'm hearing you say is that the calendar cannot trump the relationships of the people, and having that in the right priority of when people come in. So that's really good. So I'm going to kind of switch it a little bit and ask you, when we look at the world today and as Christians, what would you encourage? We just live in this busy and hectic world. Your world, I know, is busy and hectic with all the different things you're running. What would you encourage people today? What needs to change maybe in the Christian mindset, in the mindset of followers of Jesus, when looking at a world that does not know the Lord, around us, and we're in our workplaces? What's maybe something that you would encourage, the believer that's out there working in in an office, and there's, they're surrounded by people, or it's a teacher that's working in the public school system, or it's, wherever their job lands them, they're in a doctor's office, they're wherever. What's a piece that you would encourage them to say, hey, in your day to day sharing their faith in the workplace, this is what I would tell them. This is a nugget of wisdom or truth you would give to them.
One of the things that I would say is have a prayer list.
Okay. Yeah.
Quite frankly, 2 of your kids are on my prayer list, because several months ago, it's been a while now, we laid hands on and prayed for your daughter.
Right.
Because she was having some back problems. And, and I said, Olivia, I'm going to keep praying for you until you tell me to stop. She hadn't told me yet. So every day I pray for Olivia.
She probably won't.
And she won't. Good for her, And then, Grady's been on my prayer list too since last week, whatever that was. In case you people out there didn't know, he got injured at work and, scared his mother to death.
Yes, he did.
Maybe dad too. But I try to pray for people, and even people that I don't know well, and that's one of the things I pray for people I don't know well. Lord, if there's something going on, open my eyes so I can see it.
That's really good.
And I think of the story in the Old Testament where Elijah, the prophet, is out there and he's got his servant, and the servant's really worried because the enemy is coming against him. And Elijah's prayer for him is, Lord, open his eyes so that he can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And God opens the servant's eyes and he sees the host of heaven with swords out to defend these guys, and that's what we have at our
disposal,
at our hands, and we don't ask for it. And I'm not saying that God doesn't still provide it, but I think he's much more eager to provide it when we're asking or begging him to do it.
Sure.
And say, Lord, just show me how, or this person really bothers me, which is a hard one for me. This guy's a jerk, so show me what I need to do so that I can love him like you would love him.
That's so good. Yeah.
And when people are an object of our prayer, then our attitude towards them changes, I think.
Yeah. Boy, you're right. I'm going through some of that myself right now, and just, being able to spend time in prayer for them and time with them.
Yeah.
That's really good. Then kind of just finally here, when you think about,
can I add one more?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
And then it's, we talk about being interruptible, and I think it's with a sense of urgency too, Brandon.
Okay.
We have something as believers that is a gift that the world doesn't have.
Yeah.
And we need to be both urgent and intentional and interruptible and all those other, nice phrases that we use here all the time, and just say, I'm going to step out. I don't like to do this. It's not comfortable for me, but I'm going to step out because I have something that these people need.
That's
and
so
not
good.
Because I'm special, but just because God has gifted that to me, and I know what an incredible gift it is, and I want to share that with other people.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So both of those things, having a sense of urgency about it, and prayer. And I would even say that I love what you said about praying for people that maybe, that are difficult in the workplace, somebody you're having a hard time with. I kind of, in my mind, imagine this room that has a bunch of cubicles, and, the person 3 cubicles down from you just drives you crazy.
Yeah.
But during your lunch break, you're sitting and praying for them, and your heart's starting to change for them, and having a sense of urgency of going, I may have a difficult time with this person, but boy, if they don't know Christ, boy, their eternal, landing spot is a heck of a lot more important than they drive me crazy when they're constantly doing whatever. Yeah, that's really, really good. I one last little quick thing to just kind of wrap us up is, when you think about just out there in the workplace of being just the principle of being a light and being an example, for people, maybe just give a word of encouragement to somebody that, they're in the workplace and they feel kind of beaten down, or, does this really matter? Maybe just kind of a word of encouragement you give to them about, being a light, representing the Lord in those places. It's really difficult.
Right. Well, one of my favorite scriptures too is that man makes his plans, but God directs his steps. And if God has provided you with a job, with a career, with a business, with a, office job, whatever it is, he hasn't left you with that.
Oh, that's good.
He is there with you all the time.
Yeah.
So take that as a gift and a challenge at the same time. God has gifted me this spot, so let me use it, not so I can feel good, but for his glory. And sometimes that's going to be tough. And sometimes you're going to hit rejection.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are going to look at you and say, keep your Jesus stuff to yourself.
Right.
Yep. But I don't think God looks at us and says, boy, you failed because that guy told you keep your Jesus stuff to yourself.
Right.
He's going to say, you're a good kid.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you today because you stepped out and you did exactly what I asked you to do.
Yep.
And you know what? Your job is to go and sow. It's my job to make it grow. Right. So I'm going to work on the results. You did your part.
That's so good. That's really good. That's an encouragement. I hope for all of you listening to that and bear the points, praying for somebody that, at that workplace and having that sense of urgency. And I think in the willingness to be interruptible, all of those things, just kind of consider, because if you sit in that place where you forget and go, oh man, it's hard. But, oh yeah, Lord, you have me here for a reason. You're going to use me wherever I go. I think just those were really good reminders, Bear. And I hope it's been a great reminder to all of you and to just encourage all of you that we are ambassadors for Christ out in this world. And wherever God has you, you're his ambassador. And sometimes people do not want to hear what you have to say, but they can't prevent you from praying for them and lifting them up. And so I hope today was an encouragement to you. You're able to take some nuggets and apply it to your life as you go and live this walk with Jesus out in a real way. So again, thanks for joining us for this episode. Bear, thanks for being here.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, and your words of wisdom are just such an encouragement. Well, God bless you all. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Get Real podcast today. My hope each and every week is that you're able to take the content, apply it to your life, that it becomes more of who you are and less of what you do, and that we live an intentional life together. If you're interested in supporting the work of ministry here at Real Life Texas, we'd like to invite you to do that by going to reallifetexas.org/give and supporting us today.